Okay, good morning, everyone. So my name is Glenna St. If my last name didn't give it away, I'm Haitian. I was born and raised in Haiti. So I kind of like threw some pictures together, this little presentation, so you guys won't have to stare at me. But I was born and raised in Haiti, and I know like a lot of times when people think of like Haiti, they get like this negative connotation, especially like now so more than ever. But I didn't really have a bad childhood in Haiti. I was having the time of my life in Haiti. It was just me and my mom, but I was growing up around all my cousins. My grandmother lived like a few blocks away, so I had a great childhood in Haiti. And obviously, like my mom was a single mother, but so I'm sure she was facing her own struggles, but it wasn't anything that she ever let me feel like there was never a void for me. Like I wouldn't have known that she was going through whatever she would have been going through. But so when I turned 8, my mom decided to send me to the US to live with my dad. And I didn't really know my dad at that point. Like he had come to visit and stuff, but it wasn't like somebody that I was used to seeing. Like I probably maybe had met my father like 3 times in my life, but like obviously we talked on the phone and stuff, so that was like very life-changing for me. And then so when I immigrated here, my parents told me that it was going to be like better opportunities for me here. I didn't really understand that at 8 years old, and this was like a foreign country. I didn't speak any English, and I was without my mom. I didn't really know, like I went from being an only child, well technically I wasn't, but I didn't know my brother, so I was an only child, and then suddenly I came to the US. I had a little brother, I had a stepmom, so it was like very like life altering. But so I constantly begged my dad. I was like, please send me back, like I want to go back to my mom, but they refused, and eventually I just had to accept the fact like, okay, my life is here now, I just have to suck it up and keep it pushing. But growing up, one thing that my dad and my stepmom always talked to me about was just the importance of education. They were like, you know, they had to sacrifice a lot to come here, so education is important. If you want to get somewhere, you have to, you know, get good grades and stuff. And he would like try to bribe me. So for every A that I earned in school, he would give me $20, and if I earned a B, he would give me $10. And with that being said, like I was a great student. Like I was a great student. I'm getting paid. So I graduated high school. I think we move on to the next step now. I graduated high school from Ocoee High School in Orlando, and then I attended the University of West Florida. I graduated in NHS. I was also a yearbook editor, and I was taking a whole bunch of AP classes at the time. So during undergrad, I was always working between like 2 to 3 jobs to try to support myself. I was working as a resident assistant because if you were an RA, you got free housing. So I was like, of course. I was also a cashier at Panera Bread, and I was doing the Federal Work Study Program with the Office of Financial Aid, and I was interning at the Northern District Court of Florida. So it was literally just driving from one location to the next constantly. So I always considered like being a lawyer while I was in undergrad, but I didn't really feel like that was ideal for me because at the time my mom was still in Haiti and I was helping her. And not only that, but I had turned 21 at that point. So I was petitioning for her to come to the US. I was like, okay, well, what is life gonna look like if I'm going to law school while trying to bring my mom here and also just like, you know, supporting my family and my sisters in Haiti and stuff as well. But during that, like COVID happened after I graduated, and that kind of like bought me some time. So during COVID, like we're sitting around working, I'm like, okay, this isn't the job that I want. I need to figure out like what my next steps are. But if I'm constantly thinking about like, oh, well, if I get there, I'm not gonna be able to do it. I'm gonna waste all these years and the time is still gonna keep passing me by. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna go ahead, figure out how to apply, get it started. And if it's meant to work out, like it'll sort itself out. So I just kind of like took a leap of faith with that. But so I started attending Stetson College of Law, and 1L year was a culture shock for me specifically. I mean, Stetson is a great school and I love it there, but I think like when we look around the classrooms, like there's not a lot of people that look like yourself, and I've never been one to really doubt myself, but I've never been at a private university either. So now I'm looking around the room, I'm like the only Black woman in my classes, so it starts to make you feel like, okay, like maybe I don't belong here, and those are the points where you kind of start doubting yourself. But at the same time, like I knew that, you know, I had been a great student all my life, and if they all could do it, then so could I. And so throughout law school, I started working at the Public Defender's Office as a CLI. I worked in their juvenile justice clinic, and I was also law clerking for 2 different law firms in insurance defense. I've also been on BALSA's executive board for the past 3 years. And so, okay. So why Journey to Esquire? I didn't really know anything about Journey to Esquire last year, but my friend was part of the program. And one of the modules that we've done throughout Journey to Esquire was about like pro bono and paying it forward. So my friend Logan Jackson, and I put her picture up here, she was a previous scholar, like I mentioned, so she like took the time, she sat me down, and she was telling me about her experience through the program, and she was encouraging me to apply. She figured that because it was a resource to her, that it could be a resource to me. And so I was like, well, of course, so I applied. So the modules. It's not always easy waking up at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday morning, it's not. But I will say, like, I've never attended a module in the morning and felt like, wow, I could have spent my time doing something better. That's not a feeling that I ever had. Every time I left the module, I felt like, okay, wow, like there's something there that I can apply in the real life. So one of my favorite modules that we did was probably the health and wellness module. For me, I have always had like a hard time saying no. Like I feel like I'm a people pleaser. Not so much anymore because I've been working on that. So one thing that Jocelyn talked about was if you basically don't take the time for your wellness, then you're going to be forced to take the time for your illness. Like I remember that quote because like unless it's in my schedule, like she was basically saying like you need to block out time for yourself so that when somebody comes to you and they're like, oh, well, can you do this? Because you already have that time reserved, it'll be easier for you to let them know like, oh, no, I can't. And so that was like a very practical tip for me because I would always like, if it wasn't like set in stone, it wasn't concrete, I would be willing to, you know, deviate from whatever I had planned for myself. So it would be easy for me to get burnt out. But I will say like all of the modules that we've done were beneficial, but that was one of my favorites. And another module that we did that I really enjoyed was we did a diversity, equity, and inclusion module. And I really enjoy hearing from different attorneys. Like I said, like you look around the classroom and you don't see anybody that looks like yourself. That starts to play with your, you know, your self-esteem and your confidence and stuff. So to hear from all these different minority attorneys and like to hear about all the adversity that they face in their stories and how they too feel what you felt is like reassuring that, okay, like look at them where they're at now. And if they can get to that position, then like, why can't I? I can do it as well. So it just kind of helps you so that you don't have to second guess yourself as much. But more than anything, I would say that Journey to Esquire has been essential in just like building us up. It's encouraged us to be ourselves and to not be afraid to take up space, to be authentic. Journey to Esquire has provided us with support that we can't get from anywhere else. Because I am also like a first generation law student, so there's not anybody in my family that I can call and be like, oh, well, you know, how do I navigate this? But especially as a Haitian attorney as well, because I'm like, you know, it's a different culture. So like when I tell my family I'm a lawyer, they're like, oh, you're gonna be lying for people. Like that's but even having Jocelyn is also a Haitian as well. So like, you know, that's a connection. Like if I have a question, I can go to her and she'll understand where I'm coming from. Like if I'm having some type of issue with my mom and stuff, like I feel comfortable and confident to talk to her about it because I know she'll understand the cultural background of that as well. But Jocelyn has just really like taken the time to, you know, learn what our interests are, to ask about it, to check on our mental health, and to answer any questions and to try to connect us with people that can lead us in the path that we want to go. I know during our one-on-one, you were asking me what I was interested in, and she was like, oh, well, you know, like, I know like 10 million people addicted for that. And like, literally, as we're having our one-on-one, she's sending me emails to like, connect to this person, connect to that person. I'm like, oh, this lady don't play. Like, she's not playing no games. I want to say thank you to Journey to Esquire for that. So my next slide is like, now what? So I'll be graduating in May and I'll be sitting for the July bar, and I'll be starting my career practicing immigration with Florida Legal Services, and I'll be working in the unaccompanied minors program. So I know as I start to navigate these new challenges that I always have, you know, I can always call on Jocelyn and everybody that's a part of Journey to Esquire to help me if I have any questions. So I just want to say thank you to you, Jocelyn, and thank you to the e-board members and everybody else. And thank you guys for being here.